Good morning and welcome. It is Sunday, February 15th, 2026, and this is Sunday Fun Day from Courtroom Confidential, the fastest growing true crime news channel on YouTube. Welcome, everybody. Happy Sunday Fun Day. So glad to see so many faces in the chat already. Beach Bum, Lulu Bell, Therapist You Know, Afton, Chihuahua Mama, Coffee in Hand and Ready, she says, Kathy Mama Bear, Haley Mao, Susan D, Little Miss Red Velvet. Beach Bums are looking forward to a good show. I am too. It's going to be a great one. I got some sleep, everybody. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling juiced, you might say. I would say I am 78% juiced is just kind of what my internal monitor is telling me. But yeah, I feel like $1 million because I actually slept not even that long, but it was like an entire evening, which is a luxury to me over the last couple of weeks. So thank you everyone so much for being here. Thank you so much for showing up. Joe Schmo is in the chat, everybody. Good to see Joe. Nice to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And wow, Debbie, you're taking my breath away. That is incredibly generous and very kind of you. Says, enjoy an adult dinner and drinks when this case is over. Take those fabulous mods out. Thank you for your great reporting. That is very, very, very sweet of you. And very, thank you so much for your support. I don't even know what to say. For the first time, I'm kind of at a loss of words, but thank you, Debbie. That's very kind. And I will do that. We will have like an actual adult sit down dinner. And everybody, we're feeling fantastic because we actually hit 75,000 subs over the last couple of days. It's just been remarkable. All the support and all the new people who are here. So to those new folks, I know that you've been following. If you're new here, you've been following a lot of the coverage that we've done on Nancy Guthrie, and it's still an ongoing case. I check the news every night before I go to bed, every morning when I wake up. Usually the time between those two is not all that long. And still no conclusion to this thing. So we're continuing to follow it. But if you're new and you're new to this channel, then you're new to this show. This is a show that we do every week called Sunday Fun Day, and it's one of our favorite things that we do. And let me introduce myself and tell you a little bit about Sunday Fun Day. My name is Joshua Ritter. I'm a former prosecutor with the LA District Attorney's Office. I was there for 10 years or more. And then I left to go into private practice as a criminal defense attorney. We started this channel, Courtroom Confidential, with the idea of presenting to you both sides of the courtroom and both sides of the issues. We want to give you a fair and balanced kind of understanding of what's going on in these cases as much as I possibly can with my experience. And then Sunday Fun Day, we wanted to have an opportunity for all of you to ask questions. So for everybody who's left us a voice message throughout the week, we're going to take as many of those questions as we can this morning and answer them live for you. There were a lot. So I'm already going to warn you, I wasn't able to answer everybody's question. Don't take it personally if your question isn't getting answered. Hopefully your question is being answered somewhere else by perhaps somebody else asked the same question, but we're doing our best. I loved hearing from everybody, from people all over the world. It still blows me away some of the places that this channel is able to reach to. So thank you so much for being here. Stay to the end. As always, we do have announcements. Oh, and happy birthday to Afton, one of our mods. Thank you so much. We love and appreciate you so much. Wishing you a wonderful year full of laughter, love, and happiness. Absolutely. Happy birthday, Afton. That's fantastic. Is today Afton's actual birthday? Oh, that's very cool. Well, if you're here, I'm sure you're here. Happy birthday, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And I hope this is kind of the kickoff to a good birthday for you. Kindness Coefficient just became a member, everybody. Fantastic. Welcome aboard. Unholy Saint just became a member. Welcome aboard. Kathy Mama Bear, thank you so much for that super chat. So kind. Says, happiest of birthdays to our most amazing Afton. Absolutely true. Cody in Tennessee, thank you for the super sticker. Very kind. You guys are awesome this morning. Heather Cooper Smith, thank you for the super sticker. All right. As I say, as always, stay to the end for announcements. We've got some really good ones for you. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. That's what I need to do myself. Take a deep breath. You made it through another week. It's the beginning. It's the end of a week or beginning of the next, depending on how you look at it. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with anybody that you think might enjoy it. But let's go ahead and get to these questions. Who is going to kick us off this morning? Here we go.
Hi, Josh and CC crew. This is Peony422. I'm calling from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I'm really confused about the Luigi Mangione charges. Does this mean now that he's going to get away with murder? Looking forward to your answer. Have a happy Sunday fun day, everyone.
Peony from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Let's put you on the map. There you go. Thank you so much. And you know what? I should say too, we didn't have a Sunday Fun Day last week because of the Super Bowl. We thought we'd get everybody a day off. So we've got questions from the last couple of weeks, and I appreciate that because we've got questions about some cases that we haven't been able to give as much attention to with all of the breaking stuff surrounding Nancy Guthrie. And one of the things that happened is Luigi Mangione, there was a very big ruling in his federal case. So not to get too much into the weeds on this, what the judge essentially decided, and the judge made the correct decision here, I think, according to the law. It just shows you how frustrating the law can be. He was charged federally with murder, but you cannot charge murder, straight murder in federal court without what's called a federal hook. You have to have some reason that gives you federal jurisdiction. One of those reasons can be that the underlying felony, federal felony, is a crime of violence. Okay, so what they had charged him with here is stalking. He had stalked this person, and I think they had a very straightforward argument for that. Stalked the victim in this case across state lines, giving them federal jurisdiction. Then the argument becomes, well, is stalking a crime of violence? And you might say to yourself, well, yeah, of course it is. But the way that the Supreme Court has instructed courts to analyze this question is they have to look at it almost in a vacuum, not looking at the circumstances of the case, but looking at the elements of the crime. Can it be committed in a non-violent way? And his attorneys, he's got some very good attorneys, the Agnifilo couple, they argued that, yeah, you can commit stalking without violence towards the victim. What if you're stalking someone and your harassment of that person, one of the elements, is a threat of violence against yourself? What if you're saying you're going to do harm to yourself if you don't stay with me and love me? Can you still commit the crime of stalking and yet not exhibit violence toward the victim? The judge said that's a persuasive argument. And the funny thing about it is there's no case law on this, so there wasn't anything for the judge to fall back on. Because then the judge had to decide, and she even said in her own ruling how frustrated she was by this, but she felt that her hands were tied because the stalking is not considered a crime of violence. The murder charge federally could not be hooked to that, could not be attached to that. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it. I'll think of it like 3/4 of the way through this. It'll come to me. But could not be attached to that underlying crime, then they can't charge the murder. So the judge dismissed the murder charge on the federal side, and all he's looking at is stalking. Now, when I say all he's looking at, it's still a crime that is going to give him life exposure, but it's not murder. But to your question, Peony, that doesn't mean he's quote unquote getting him away with murder. He's still charged with murder on the state side of things in New York State Court. But he had a win in that it was a first-degree murder in state court based upon terrorism. The judge in that case said, I don't think this is terrorism. Now, I think that ruling is wrong. And I think that should be appealed by the prosecutors. We have no word yet if they plan to do that. I think they should. But because there was no terrorism allegation, aggravating factor, he's only looking at second-degree murder on the state side of things, which can have exposure as low as 15 years to life. So, end of the day, this man is likely not getting out for a very long time. But on the state side, it might not be life without parole. And on the federal side, it could perhaps be. We don't know. And they continue to pursue both of these parallel prosecutions. Great question, Peony. Thank you so much for kicking us off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. All right, where are we off to next here? That means Ritter has to do things, get himself in order. Here we go.
Hi, Josh. This is Tiffany from Horseheads, New York. It's been quite a long time since my last call, which was back in the summertime about the Double Jeopardy movie, which you graciously answered for me. Thank you so much. And I hope you and Tiffany enjoyed your blast from the past movie night. Anyway, I'm calling this time to ask a question about the Aaron Spencer case. On this week's Sunday Funday, somebody had asked a question about bench trials, and it got me thinking, could the prosecution request a bench trial for the Aaron Spencer case? I know that you said that it would have to be approved by both the defense and prosecution, so it would never happen because the defense would never agree to it. But I'm just wondering if the prosecution can ask for it, or if that's something that only the defense can do. And then to piggyback off that, I was wondering, have there ever been any trials similar to this where somebody who was defending their child was brought to trial and they were convicted? Because I just see all of this as a waste of time. I can't imagine a jury that would convict. And I know you said that most of the time these end in plea deals. So are there any that the parent has been convicted? And I guess, what did the prosecution do to make that happen? Thank you so much for listening to my question, and happy Sunday Fun Day, everyone. Bye.
Tiffany from Horseheads, New York. Good to hear from you again. Yeah, if you remember, Tiffany had asked a question about Double Jeopardy, and it got us, I think she even asked about that movie Double Jeopardy, and we got this on a whole tangent. We watched the movie, and then that just kind of dominated our chat and thinking for a while. It's a funny movie. You guys should check out. Ashley Judd, who's the actor? Oh shoot, I'm blanking on who takes the male lead in that. Oh, check it out. Somebody will say it in the chat. It's a fun movie from the 80s, I think, or early 90s. Anyhow, don't get distracted again, Ritter. Let's take the second part of your question. I agree with you. It is extremely rare to see a case where a parent is being prosecuted for essentially trying to save their own child. And that's the big problem here from a 30,000 Tommy Lee Jones. Thank you. From a 30,000 foot perspective, that's the big problem here. But from a legal perspective, absolutely a crime can be committed. I mean, if a person, if somebody is simply harassing your child or teasing your child, you don't get to pull out a gun and shoot him to death, right? You have to, it's all about reasonableness. So is the threat to your child, is it reasonable to interpret that as life-threatening? And if that's reasonable, that's one part of the inquiry. The other part is your response to that, your use of deadly force, reasonable? So, it could be a situation where, and I think that's what the prosecution is going with here, that they just felt that his response was unreasonable under the circumstances. Now, I don't believe that. I don't think many people believe that. But I think what they're hinging a lot of their argument on is that Aaron unloaded his gun. He fired 16 shots. I think 15 out of the 16 hit the man involved in this case. And Fossler is his name. He that's 15 in the magazine, 1 in the chamber. He unloaded his gun. Now, it's going to come down to do jurors think that was a reasonable response or not? But to your First question about a bench trial. I love that you're asking this, and this again demonstrates how this is the smartest community on YouTube. Why would you want a bench trial or even think about a bench trial in this type of a case? This is the perfect example of when I bring this issue up. You have a case where one side wants everyone to concentrate on just the letter of the law, and the other side is very interested in the emotion of it. But to your question, could the prosecution request it? They could request it, and the defense could say, no way. We want a jury trial. The defense is entitled to a jury trial. They are entitled constitutionally to a trial by their peers. But both sides, if they're in agreement, can waive that, essentially, like you can any right, waive that and have a bench trial. But I think in this case, it's probably the defense, the prosecution wants a bench trial because the defense wants the emotion, right? What everybody's, the assumption that's being made here is that jurors are less likely to follow the letter of the law and more likely to follow their gut than a judge might be. And that the prosecution is realizing the incredible emotion surrounding this and therefore would want a judge who's just going to follow the law and be less inclined to follow the emotions surrounding the circumstances, and that a jury would be more inclined to acquit him. Because I'm telling you right now, you find one parent, one father with a daughter on that jury, no way. No way. I think most people look at this, they get the top line understanding of what took place in this case, and they want to declare the man a hero. I said they should be handing him the keys to the city and putting a parade on in celebration of what he did, rather than trying to convict him. I'm assuming everybody knows the circumstances of this case, but really quickly, Michael Fossler had already assaulted Aaron Spencer's 14-year-old daughter. He was already charged with those crimes. And while that case was pending, he abducted Spencer's daughter in the middle of the night. Spencer had to go out and find him, get him to pull over, ordered him to let his daughter out. Spencer says he refused to do that and even lunged towards Spencer. And that's when Spencer shot. And I think most people would go, are you kidding me right now? The man was saving his own daughter's life. You abducted her in the middle of the night. Of course he's going to do what he had to do. So that's the case. Hopefully those answer your questions. Tiffany, thank you so much for, again, bringing up a case that's ongoing. And we haven't had Dr. Von K says, thank you with the super chat. Thank you for that. Very kind of you. Appreciate your support. Another case that's kind of got lost in the mix in the last couple of weeks. Arizona Gal, good to see you. Hi, Josh and CC fam. I took a much needed day off. Our counseling office is just 15 minutes from the Guthrie home, and it's been an emotionally taxing week. Wow. Praying for Nancy. Hug your people. Very true. I know that you are out there, and it is hanging like a cloud over that community. So I'm hoping that there's a good result out of this soon. Joy W. Can, thank you for supporting the mods with coffees. Appreciate that as well. Quinn Lee 121 just became a YouTube member, everybody. Thank you so much, Quinn Lee. And Mary Jubinville has been a member for 9 months. Says, good morning, Josh. Glad you made it home for a few days. Thank you for all you do. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. All right, let's get to our next one here.
Hello, my name is Celeste from Ocala, Florida. And my question is about Lindsay Clancy. And I am seeing where Lindsay and Patrick Clancy separately started lawsuits. And my question being, you can't make money off of committing a crime, but if she were to win a lawsuit, wouldn't that give her a payout? So I'm a little bit confused. Thank you.
Celeste from Ocala, Florida. Let's put you on the map. Again, thank you for asking about the Lindsay Clancy case. Just to briefly catch everybody up on this one, it's a horrible, horrible case out of Massachusetts involving this this woman, Lindsay Clancy, she had three children. Her contention is that she was suffering from very severe postpartum, whether you want to call it syndrome, psychosis, whatever it is. And she was diagnosed with that, and she was being heavily medicated for that. In the midst of that, at the height of that, she is claiming that she heard voices. She was having thoughts about self-harm, and that ultimately forced her to take the lives of her three young children. It's just heartbreaking. She then apparently attempted to take her own life, jumped out of the window. She's paralyzed to this day because of this whole thing. And I imagine every day, it's not the idea that she can't walk that bothers her. It's the idea that her children are lost more than anything else. I mean, the more I think about this thing, look at them. Look at how happy this family is. It's just a nightmare, sad tragedy, any way you look at it. But Celeste's question is, her husband, who is standing by her, supporting her, he has gone on record as saying that my wife is not a monster. My wife was very sick. He is suing her doctors for medical malpractice, saying that she was misdiagnosed, either overprescribed or underprescribed medication, or prescribed the wrong medications, and that led to her psychosis. Now, Celeste asked the very astute question, well, if she receives a judgment on that, damages, money, isn't that in a way profiting from the crime? That's interesting. I don't think that would apply, and we're talking about these kind of son of Sam laws. I don't think that would apply here because it's not the fruits of the crime. In other words, she's not selling her story. That would be one thing. It's not that she's gaining life insurance that the children may have had. She's not profiting off of the actual commission of the crime. It's a civil action for what was done to her that may have led to the crime. So in other words, she could still make the same claim of damages and medical malpractice even if she hadn't committed the crime. In other words, there isn't a direct nexus necessarily between what she's asking for in monetary damages and the commission of the crime. And therefore, I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. I don't know if there's a strategy behind them actually bringing that suit now. Perhaps when those doctors are called to the stand in her trial, that might come up. Aren't you in fact being sued? I don't know. This is something the judge is going to have to hash out in limine motions ahead of time. But really tragic case, breaks my heart. None of it. You know, a lot of these cases we talk about really awful people, and so we can all clearly find a side we want to get on. This one, there's no clear side. I mean, it's like you feel sorry for her, but you also see that what she did was take the lives of three children. And by the way, with a lot of evidence of premeditation, the idea that she had kind of lured her husband out of the house by having him go on some sort of errand, knew how long he would be gone, strangled the children. That's not a quick death. It just, it's making me sick to my stomach to even think about it. But Celeste, thank you so much for the question. All right, let's keep it moving here. Where are we going? Let's keep it rolling. Here we go.
Hi, Josh, Tiff, Mods, and all the lovely chat. This is Misbehaving, and as per now new domicile rules, I'm living in a little town called Sandiacre. It's all one word, and it's spelt Sandiacre, just slightly west of Nottingham. So my question is not really case specific this week, it's just a legal one. So on a regular basis, we see a question posed, an objection made, and then the saying, it's not offered for the truth of the matter. To which my brain goes, say what now? Not for the truth, you say? I thought we were here for the truth. What shenanigans is this? Now, I know this is some sort of legal mumbo-jumbo, so can you please break down what it means and how it should be effectively used? Thanks again. Can't wait for another Sunday fun day. Ta-ra, lovelies.
It is legal mumbo-jumbo. That's all it is. That's what lawyers are paid for, to speak the legal mumbo-jumbo. Great question. Misbehaving. So what misbehaving is alluding to is we were trying to figure out some rules on where do you get placed on the map? Is it where you happen to be calling from, or is it where you happen to live? And I said I had to make an executive decision, and it's where you are, where you live. In legal and lawyerly mumbo jumbo, it's where you're domiciled. So she is calling from Sandy Acre, England. We're putting you on the map. Appreciate that, Miss Behaven. This is a great question too. What does it mean when they're saying it's not offered for the truth of the matter? And if it's not for the truth, then what are we listening to here? Where you see that come up is in hearsay objections. So somebody will say something, objection hearsay, or objection calls for hearsay, and then the other side, almost in a gut reaction, will say it's not offered for the truth of the matter. And that's usually enough for the judge. It's kind of like a quick response to that. It applies in most cases, but not in all. So what does it really mean? Things are hearsay. The definition of hearsay is an out-of-court statement offered for the truth of the matter asserted. Well, what does that mean? It means that you are offering the statement only to prove what is being said is the truth. Okay, again, maybe not all that clear. Here's some examples. Let's say I want to quote someone out of court. So an out of court statement made by somebody else that they said, I'm burning up. Now, am I offering that for the truth of the matter that they're actually burning up, that they're actually engulfed in flame and burning up? Or am I offering it to explain their present physical state, that they were in that moment feeling very hot? There's the difference. There's where it wouldn't be hearsay. I'm not offering it to say they're in fact burning up. I'm offering it to explain what a present physical state that person was experiencing, which is an exception to hearsay and therefore not offered for the truth of the matter asserted. Here's another one. Josh is going to kill me if I touch his truck. Now, Tiffany saying that, somebody quoting Tiffany saying that, we're not actually offering it, perhaps, to say Josh is going to commit murder, but it explains Tiffany's behavior as to why she might not touch the truck. You follow? We're explaining her present mental state. The effect on the person speaking is fear of Josh and touching his truck, not that Josh would actually commit homicide had she touched his truck. Again, I hope these are helpful and not further confusing everybody. Somebody quotes Tiffany as saying, I'm going to strangle Josh. Are we offering that to say that she in fact means to commit murder against Josh? Or is that going to her present state of mind, which is she's angry? This is the clever little nuanced games being played. It's hearsay. The reason we keep hearsay out is that person making the statement is not being cross-examined to ascertain what they in fact meant. So we're looking for either indicia of why it's reliable or reasons why the statement itself can come in because it's not being offered to actually prove what's being said in the statement. Even listening to myself now, I don't know if I'm making this all that clear, but that's what it means. And I'm sure I'm going to get follow-up questions on this. But thank you, Miss Behaven, from Sandy Acre, England, for asking the question. And I hope that was helpful a little bit. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Oh, Court Dog Daniel says, thank you for the super chat. Coffee for Tiff, who must miss her dude for the week while he's working hard in Arizona. Thank you for that. She will enjoy, I'm sure, some sort of latte with a non-dairy milk involved. Annalie Finch, thank you for the super chat, says, coffee donation for our hardworking mods. Appreciate you, Annalie. And Haley Moo was a member for 1 month, says, my only membership to my fave channel. That touches my heart. Thank you for that, Haley Moo. Appreciate you. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Okay. Nobody can hear it. All right, here we go. I don't know what I did wrong. I thought I did it all right.
with the delay. Hey, Josh, Tiff, mods, and all. A cheery Sunday to everyone. This is Annie Kay calling from Santa Barbara, California. In the Kouri Richins case, is her defense team playing a technicality game by throwing everything at the wall? With the delays, new defense teams, accusations about witness and dog intimidation to keep the testimony out, it all seems like endless delays employs to buy time in order to find a technicality which will release her. Please share your thoughts on gamesmanship in general and when it crosses a line in the court. Thank you very much and love to all. Bye.
Annie from Santa Barbara. Thank you so much, Annie, for the question. Let's put you on the map. Interestingly, Annie, Kouri Richins is represented by Kathy Nestor. Kathy Nestor, you may know from the Kouri Richins case, or you may know from the Tyler Robinson case. She's got a very heavy caseload. She's got two of the most high-profile cases, I would say, in the country right now, handling both of them concurrently, both of them out of Utah, interestingly enough. And she is litigious. She files a lot of motions. If you've seen it in the Tyler Robinson case, I think it's becoming a bit much. And she's filed quite a bit on behalf of Kouri Richins. And your question is, are they playing games? And I love this question because it really kind of goes to what is the job of a defense attorney, right? We talk about defense attorneys their job is to zealously advocate for their client within the bounds of the law, but up to that threshold, right? If you're on trial for murder and you're looking to spend the rest of your life in prison or worse, you don't want the person next to you kind of worried about things like, well, am I doing too much here? You want them doing too much, right? Up to the point of legal. I had a case that had gone on and on and on and on, and there was a lot of pretrial litigation. And I remember we got called up to the bench, myself and the prosecutor, and there was a stack like this on the bench next to the judge of all the filings and briefings that we had done. And I was not, me and this judge were not seeing eye to eye. Things had starting to get a little tense. And she says to me, Mr. Ritter, what's going on here? Like, why are we taking, this thing needs to get on the ground, and every time I turn around, you're filing something. And I said to her, if you think for a moment I'm going to apologize for doing work on behalf of my client, have yourself another think. The prosecution's trying to put him in prison. I'm going to file everything I feel is necessary. Now, that being said, it can get frivolous, right? It can get ridiculous. And judges will respond to that. But if your motions are well-founded and they have legitimacy to them, you can't hold back. Now, does that apply to Kouri Richins? I think some stuff might have been, this idea that they're just hell-bent on getting this moved to another county, I think is kind of played itself out. I think in the Robinson case, some of that is borderline frivolous, but, defense attorneys, that's kind of their job. They're going to push till they're wrapped on the nose, and that's kind of their job. But a great question, Annie. To all of us watching, sometimes you can go, can we get it moving here? What are we doing? And it's really up to the judge to kind of rein that in. I want to interrupt for just a second, guys, because I've received two tweets from Brian Enton, and I can't read them and listen and do all of this. So I'm just going to read them to you here live so that you're hearing as much as I am and you're not missing out on anything that might be developing. These just happen. This is from Brian Enton from News Nation. He's been on our show. You guys all love him. He goes, new from FBI. The gloves found approximately 2 miles from the Guthrie residence in a field near the side of the road were packaged up by PCOS, that's Pima County Sheriff's Office, and sent overnight on 2/12, and they arrived at their private lab in Florida on 2/13, so 2 days ago. The FBI received preliminary results yesterday on 214 and are awaiting quality control and official confirmation today before putting unknown male profile into CODIS, the national database unique to the Bureau. This process typically takes 24 hours from when the Bureau receives the DNA. Investigators collected approximately 16 gloves. Thank you, Kaylin. You're fantastic. In various areas near the house. Most of them were searchers' gloves that they discarded in various areas when they searched the vicinity. Incredible. The one with the DNA profile recovered is different and appears to match the gloves of the subject in the surveillance video. That's hopeful. The FBI has and will continue to provide assistance on whatever timeline is provided to us. And then there's another one. This is from Mike Ruiz, who works. No, I'm getting waved at. Hold on. Oh, yeah, Mike's essentially saying the same thing, but he's saying that the one with the DNA profile recovered is different and appears to match the gloves of the subject in the surveillance video. So that's Mike Ruiz from Fox Digital kind of adding confirmation to that. So good to hear, because at first we're hearing where these gloves were and they were discarded quite a bit of ways, and everybody's going, is this hopeful at all? And there was, I will tell you now, rumblings that, hey, those gloves look a lot like the gloves being worn by the investigators searching for things. But it sounds like at least one of them recovered is not, and maybe that will lead to some hopeful evidence. And I will tell you, just because something seems like it might be a remote chance doesn't mean it's a chance, not a chance. And in this case, you're going to leave no stone unturned and no glove untested to try to get to the bottom of this whole thing. But thank you, Kaylin and Tiff behind the scenes, for bringing that to my attention. And thank you, Annie, for asking that question. All right, let's keep it rolling here.
Hi, Joshua. This is Missy from Heber, Kentucky. My question is, why would a defense attorney not ask for a bond, like in the Michael McKee case? Thank you. Bye.
Missy from Kentucky. Missy, I listened to your message a zillion times. I couldn't quite catch where you're from, so I just put you smack dab in the middle of Kentucky. Did you figure it out, Kaylin? Okay, so we listened. I couldn't figure it out. I tried my best. If you're listening, tell us the name of the actual city. But great question. Again, Michael McKee. This is the man now accused of murdering his ex-wife, Monique Tepe, along with her new husband, Spencer. Here she is, lived in a horrible, toxic relationship for a short period of time with this psychopath, moves on with her life, moves out of the state, goes somewhere else, pursues her life, not in his face, not causing him any harm, no contentious divorce, no money problems, no custody of children problems, just moves on with her life. And this man, allegedly, cannot get over that, cannot stand the fact that she is no longer his, cannot stand the fact that she's found another man, living a happy life, raising beautiful children. Look at this. Robs them of all of that because he's just a selfish narcissist. So he was in court not too long ago, and his attorney waived his bond hearing. Why in the world would you ever do that, is Missy's question. There is strategy behind this. In most jurisdictions, you only get one shot at a bond hearing, okay? Because the judge isn't going to allow you to argue bond every time you're in court. Otherwise, that's all they'd be doing. Because all that these guys want while they're in is to get out. So every time you'd come to court, you'd have to say, Your Honor, I'd like to renew my bond hearing and ask blah, 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 blah. Judge have to deny these things. So you get one shot at that unless there's something called a change in circumstances. So the judge is going to take everything in front of him or her, assume the facts, by the way, from the prosecution are true, because the judge doesn't know if they're true or not. So it's in favor of the prosecution to assume the facts presented are true. Given those facts, is there a reason to grant bail? And if you make an argument at that point that your person should have a reduced bail or be let out and the judge denies it, that's it. That's your shot. You don't get another bite at the apple. Unless something changes, a charge gets dismissed, you go to prelim and one of the charges are not held to answer, then you might be able to say, well, now, Your Honor, we're looking at something different than we were before. I'd like to revisit this. So sometimes attorneys will waive that hearing to kind of get their ducks in a row to have a more robust argument made to the court regarding bail. I think that's what that is. It's not about kind of giving up on the issue. It's about making sure that when you're going to take your one shot, it's a good shot. So thank you for that, Missy, and bringing up this case that, again, a case we've been following very closely out of Ohio. Pardon me. Columbus, Ohio. Crime Curious just became a YouTube member. I am very glad to hear that. Thank you, Crime Curious, and welcome aboard. Ether Bunny, thank you for the super chat, says, I live south of Tucson. Oh, and want to let you know is the corrected pronunciation of javelina. It is not javelina, Joshua. It's javelina. So when you come back, you know. Yes, the javelinas are these little, what do you call it? It's like if a pig and a chihuahua got together, this is what they would get, and they're running all over Tucson. I have not seen one yet, which I'm a little disappointed about, but some of my colleagues have seen them. Paul Morrow, who you may know, we had him on their show yesterday. In fact, he's great, but he's a full-fledged New Yorker. The guy doesn't even own a car. Like, he is a New Yorker through and through. He's never been to Los Angeles, which cracks me up. I want to get a reason for him to come to LA, but he's just New Yorker through and through. And the other day he's like, yeah, and this pig ran across the street. So he's really thrown off by what's taken place in Tucson. Cog for Life, thank you for super chat, says, any more consideration about if Savannah's interview with Virginia Guthrie? Any more consideration about Savannah's interview with Virginia Guthrie? I'm confused on this one. I'm so sorry, Cog for Life. I maybe somebody can help me out, but I know I'm not sure. Sorry. Apologize for that. If maybe I'm missing something and you guys can let me know about it. All right, let's keep it rolling here while I'm getting information from our research department, and I'll get back to you if I have an answer on it. All right. Where are we at here? Hold on. Here we go.
Hi, Josh and the CC crew. My name is Denise, and I am from Soddy Daisy, Tennessee. I think Cleveland, which is just up the road from us, is on the map, but both Cleveland and Soddy Daisy are close to Chattanooga, Tennessee. I am a hockey fan, and I tell you that because it plays into my question. One of the things that drew me into hockey was the fact that the players could be penalized and sit in the penalty box for being overly dramatic. Like if one of them got clipped by another player and they fell dramatically to the ice, which I've seen, actually, it's quite funny. They can actually sit in the penalty box for their dramatic behavior. And that had me wondering if judges have ever, or do they have the ability to, if a lawyer is just being flamboyant and overly dramatic, or I guess dramatics that would cause a disruption in the court, would they be able to give them contempt of court or a citation? I don't know exactly what besides a contempt of court there is for a judge to do to penalize somebody, besides, I guess, obviously putting them in jail. But is that something that's available to a judge? Should a lawyer get out of hand? Thanks.
Denise from Soddy Daisy, Tennessee. I love that name. I'd never heard of that community before. Saudi Daisy, Tennessee. Denise, thank you so much for calling in. I mean, the quick and short answer is yes. This is something that judges have available to them. Judges are considered to be, living in their own little fiefdom when it comes to their court, and they're allowed to do whatever, not allowed to do whatever, but they have wide latitude in maintaining the integrity, composure of their courtrooms, which includes contempt. And contempt can be a fine, and contempt can even be jail time. Contempt, I've seen situations where witnesses refusing to testify can be held in contempt. But I will say it's incredibly rare. It's not like what you see on TV, poorly written TV shows where the judge is just like, hair trigger on throwing somebody in contempt. But yes, there are attorneys who have had just behavioral issues with judges and been found in contempt. I think I've seen it once where a judge fined someone for just kind of being ridiculous and just really combative with the judge and wouldn't calm down. The only kind of case that recently came to mind is, if you guys remember Bryan Steele. This was last year in the Young Thug case, and things really boiled to a head when Bryan Steele had made some allegations about the judge having a in-chambers conference with the prosecution ex parte, discussing how to handle a recalcitrant witness. And Bryan Steele, to his credit, this was Judge Earl Glanville, called him out and was like, this is not right. And the judge, rather than addressing that issue of whether or not the ex parte, meaning without the other side, in chambers conference was inappropriate, was hell-bent on going, who told you that? Where did that information come from? Who told you that? That was under seal. And it was just kind of an obvious, he got caught and didn't want to discuss the issue, but wanted to get after whoever snitched on him. And Bryan Steele, you got to give it up for him, stood his ground and dug in. And the judge was willing to hold him in contempt and even said it, that he's going to I think he said he was going to take him into custody. And Bryan Steele, it was such a moment that I'm sure he's going to be getting free drinks from other attorneys for the rest of his life, telling this war story. Starts taking off his jacket, like, great, judge, here we go. Let me take off my wristwatch. Let me take off my jewelry. If I got to get locked up. I think he even said, if you're going to hold me, at least hold me in a jail cell next to my client so we can still prepare for trial. I mean, it was just such a criminal defense attorney hero moment. But even then, it wasn't because of his attitude had gotten out of control. It was just that he refused to answer the judge's question, which, by the way, the judge had no right to compel that anyways. Attorneys maintain the right to not answer questions too. You cannot be compelled to give up stuff. There's no crime in having inside information in that situation. So no crime had been committed just because somebody ratted out the judge, by the way. Anyhow, great question, Denise. I couldn't, to your answer, find one where it was just somebody being a complete maniac and then got locked up. But I am sure, knowing lawyers like I do, it has happened somewhere. So if you find one, let us know. All right. Ms. J Vibes, thank you for the super chat, says, can Josh work this word into one of his answers? I can't even pronounce that word. Usufruct? What does that mean? Somebody Google, ladies, research department. What does usufruct mean? If I could work that in, that's some serious bonus points we're talking about there. Chihuahua Mama, thank you, says, supporting the channel, that makes me smarter. Oh, that's very kind. That makes me feel good. And Debbie Haro, Debbie, you're incredible today. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you so much for all your support. Really, really very kind of you. I appreciate you guys too, because one of the things we really try to do here, and I'm told that I don't say it enough, is that we really are bent on, committed to the idea of, if we're going to do a live stream and you're watching it live, we're not going to interrupt it with ads from YouTube. I just think that's important and part of the experience and part of something that you guys enjoy. So we will continue to do that, which is, as you're watching it live, you're not going to get interrupted. So thank you guys all so much for all your support in everything and helping us to keep this channel operating. Usufruct. Am I even pronouncing it right? I feel like I'm not. The right to enjoy the use and advantages of another's property short of the destruction or waste of its substance. Ooh, Nelly. That's going to be a difficult one. All right, I'll work on it. I'll find some place. I'll send you the clip. I'll get laughed out of the building, but I'll find a way. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Usufruct. Where are we at? It froze up on me. I'm pressing all the right buttons.
Hi, Joshua and the CC crew. It's Raffaella here from Melbourne, Australia. I've got a few things to cover, so I'm going to try and speak really fast. The first one is about Nancy Guthrie's case. A couple of days ago, they gave away the timeline, and it jumps from 2:28, where the pacemaker app showed disconnect from the phone, straight through to 11:56 when the family checks on Nancy. But previous reports were that the church notified the family first. I just want to know your feelings on whether that was just an oversight, whether it really did happen, or whether they just, I don't know. What do you think the importance of that is? The second thing is the Brendan Banfield case. I don't know if you or your viewers were blown away by the fact that Brendan didn't give a witness statement on the day of the murder to absolutely no one. There was never any statement taken from Brendan. Is this a thing? Is it unusual? I find it really hard to believe that someone that witnessed a double homicide or a double crime death wasn't interviewed at all, and that certainly would have helped with collaborating his testimony, which there was nothing to collaborate with. Love your opinion on that. The last thing,
Raffaella from Melbourne, Australia. To our friends down under, thank you so much. Appreciate you calling in. Great questions too. Let me answer the second one first about Brendan Banfield, because this is actually an interesting kind of wrinkle in Fifth Amendment issues. So Brendan Banfield never gave a statement on the day of. My understanding too was that he was obviously asked to, but refused to. So one of the big no-nos in being a prosecutor is you can never comment on the defendant's invocation of his own Fifth Amendment rights. So if they're asked, can we speak to you? And they say no, you can't bring that up. You can't have the police officer take the stand and go, well, did you try to interview him? Yes, he refused, because that is seen as having a constitutional right and being punished for exercising it. And the Supreme Court has long said, can't do that. But if you take the stand, and you again, you can't bring it up, but if that person says something, Brendan, let's say Brendan took the stand and said something along the lines of, police never gave me an opportunity to tell my side. The police were in a rush to judgment against me, and I wasn't ever able to explain myself. Then you can go, well, Brendan, didn't officer so-and-so ask to speak to you, and didn't you refuse? Then it's not really about your invocation of your rights or exercising of your rights. Then it's about, you're just lying. You're just, what you're saying is not true. And it's flat out impeachment. And that's why it's allowed in those circumstances. But great question about that. Is it fishy? For sure. You just can't use it because people are allowed to exercise their rights, and sometimes innocent people exercise their rights. And then you ask a question about Nancy Guthrie. This has been a thing that a lot of people have been curious about. Where did she go to church? Didn't she go to church? Who reported her missing from church? Where did church actually take place? And it's an in the weeds question, and I love it. And as much as I'm trying to keep my on top of all of these things, sometimes I need a little bit of help. So that is when I can phone a friend.
Hey, Raffaella and the Courtroom Confidential crew. Happy Sunday, fun day. Thanks for having me. To answer Raffaella's question, as far as the timeline information goes, and it jumping from 2:28 a.m. to 11:56 a.m., I think that the sheriff and the feds, they're only going to put out what they want the public to know. That may have been done strategically. They may have a lot more information and may have had a lot more information at that time about the timeline than they were willing to release. So that's my opinion on that front. They're only going to strategically release information, or should only strategically release information, even though that's annoying to people like me, that is helpful to the investigation. This whole thing about the church and the church notifying family that she didn't show up, I think that was bungled from the start. Fox News has since reported that Nancy Guthrie would routinely, since COVID, go to a friend's home and watch a live stream of Savannah's church with friends. So she would go to a friend's home, they would gather together, and this is how they would do church every Sunday morning, and they would watch Savannah's church's live stream. So that actually sounds really cozy and fun and a great way to do church if you're an older person, because you're then not having to travel to church and you can just worship with your friends. So maybe that was an oversight. Maybe it was a bad use of language. Sheriff Nanos doesn't exactly seem to be a great wordsmith, and from the beginning has not used great words. He doesn't seem like some guy who's great with words. Needs a lot of help on the crafting of messaging. So I don't know if they just misworded that, didn't communicate it properly, should have communicated it better. They obviously should have communicated it better. So I think that created a lot of confusion. It cast a lot of, shade on family members when maybe it shouldn't, because it made it sound like, oh, the family's lying because she never went to church and hadn't since COVID. And then you had sleuths looking at the, online church service, like, oh, you log in and there's no, accounting for who's logged in. And it spins out of control. So the messaging really has to be a lot more clear. And I think that there have been major missteps in that way in this investigation. I think there have just been a lot of missteps, generally speaking, in this investigation. I just hope that Nancy Guthrie is brought home soon. I pray for her and her family. Thanks, guys. I hope that helps out.
Thank you so much, Angenette Levy from Law and Crime. She has her own podcast on law and crime, but she also has her own YouTube channel, which I would invite all of you to go check out. That she does a lot of really great work over there. She's been a journalist following these types of things for years. Good friend, good colleague. And there you go. That's kind of what was the backstory behind this whole thing, is that, yes, she didn't go to church, but church wasn't at a physical church. It was at a friend's home, and the friend, which makes it a little more understandable why the friend would say, we didn't see Nancy this morning, because it's, if she goes to a rather large church and she's not there, might not be as noticeable. But if she doesn't show up to her friend's house, would be more noticeable. And my understanding too was she was a very faithful participant at her church 3 times a week, I heard, even at points. But she had started attending with a friend after COVID. Now, I agree with Angenette. Big messaging problem here. If you're going to get up and do a press conference, words matter and specifics matter. And saying things like she didn't show up to church it's very different than saying she didn't show up to her friend's house for church. But that explains also the timeline of events. She disconnects from her pacemaker disconnects from her devices after 2 a.m. in the morning, and then she doesn't show up for church later that morning. What's unclear is what time that was. Friends then report to, I'm guessing, Annie, the other daughter who lives local. She wasn't there. They decide to, I'm sure, call. Mom never answers. So they go show up and mom's gone. And then that's when we have this kind of reported missing sort of thing taking place. So you can imagine too what the moments were like for that family when mom is just missing. I mean, it's just, I can feel my own heart rate starting to race, what they must have been dealing with. So thank you, Rafaela, for asking the question. Say hello to the Courtroom Confidential crew down there in Australia. 2027 World Tour coming soon. And appreciate the great question. All right. Oh, and to Angenette Levy too. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Oops. See, I'm doing this again. All right.
Good morning, Josh. This is Jackie from Scituate, Massachusetts, home of the New England Patriots. My question is not a legal one today. My question is regarding the Super Bowl. Will you be there? And who are you rooting to win? I hope you know I'm rooting for the Patriots. Have a wonderful day, everybody. It's Sunday Fun Day and it's Super Bowl Sunday. A double, triple happiness. Bye-bye. Have a great one.
Jackie from Scituate, Massachusetts, home of the New England Patriots. Thank you so much for the phone call. Yeah, we missed our Sunday Fun Day last week. Thank you for reminding us of that big kind of national holiday, essentially, that took place. I didn't get to watch a second of it. I was in a plane, and then I was in front of a sheriff's station, and then when I got back to the hotel, I think the game was already over. And I'm sorry. Now that we're speaking, that was Nancy calling from the past. Now that we're in the present, or pardon me, Jackie, I am sorry. It did not work out for your New England Patriots. You could say that the Seahawks were usufruct with the Patriots side of the field during that game. My understanding was it was not the best performance by New England, and the Seahawks kind of had their way with them through most of that game. So thank you for that, Nancy, or I mean, I don't want to keep saying Nancy now, Jackie. Mike Barry, thank you so much for the super chat. Very, very kind and generous of you. Appreciate that. Karen G, thank you for that super chat. Says, example, parents gives child house property in child's name with clause that says parent will continue. Oh, this is usufruct. Okay. Parent gives child house property in child's name with clause that says parent will continue living there until they die. However, child is owner, but can't throw them out. Parent holds usufruct on the house. So I would boy, does this give me an opportunity. The class I hated most in law school was property. Everything else about the law is very almost mathematical and very logical. You can go, a crime, homicide, the unlawful taking of a human being with malice aforethought. Oh, there's the elements. I can break down whether or not this crime solves this. Residential burglary is the unlawful breaking and entering of a dwelling with intent to commit a felony therein. Oh, I can break down those elements. Contracts, offer, acceptance, consideration. I mean, contracts is very mathematical. Loved contracts. Probably should have become a contracts attorney. I would be living in a bigger house than I am now. But contracts is a very, all of the rules make sense. Property, literally the analogy they give you to understand property law is that you have a bundle of rights, like you're holding a bunch of sticks you just found in the forest to make a fire. You have a bundle of rights. None of it makes sense. It's all arcane and from laws that were forever ago. And you try to understand it and you can never understand it. But this is one of the concepts. It's this idea that a person given permission to do something on another person's property essentially becomes grandfathered in to allow them to do that, and then you can't evict someone. I mean, there's all these ideas of like, easements and oh God, it's given me hives just to remember it. But here you go. But I don't ever remember the term usufruct being used in all of that, probably because I had that kind of, Men in Black erased from my mind. Property law. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Law Girl 9097, thank you so much for supporting the mods with coffees. Appreciate you. All right. Where am I at?
Hi, Josh. Hi, Tiff. Hi, Mods. Hi, CC crew. This is Little Miss Red Velvet from Manchester. Missed you lots last week, by the way. My question today is about Kohberger and the document dump and HIPAA. Can you expand on what the families are entitled to? Because the comments are that the autopsy evidence was hidden from the parents before the plea deal, and they only learnt the extent after it appeared on the internet. Also, Kohberger never explained anything. Why did he get any deal at all? And should not have been included in the deal. Also, the online channels, the internet, had documents that were watermarked and that were there. The parents did not have them. Can you tell me a little bit about autopsy photographs and how it works with regards to the victims' families, and explain HIPAA a bit more? Thank you, and look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Bye.
LMRV from Manchester, England. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to hear your voice. Bryan Kohberger. Okay, let's talk about the autopsy photos. Why weren't the parents involved in those? Why weren't they shown those things? Why were they released to the media before they had a chance to see them? Thank you for putting this up, Kaylin. Never let us forget Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin. May they rest in peace. And then you're also asking about the idea of why wasn't Bryan Kohberger compelled to give some sort of offer of proof when he gave a plea. That's a head scratcher to me. I think a lot of people were wondering that. I think the prosecutor in the case made an excellent point too. Would we believe anything he had to say, or would this just give him another opportunity to have, preach his sermon of selfishness and murder? And would it have brought any peace to the families? I don't think so. I sure would have liked to have known where the knife is. That's something I think might have been interesting, but we're not going to have that. We're never going to have that. And he can't be compelled to do that. They could say, yeah, we'll let him plead, but we want a proffer. And he could have said no. That's one way it could have turned out. I think the prosecution is well within the rights to do that. But as far as the autopsy photos go, a lot of investigators have to walk sometimes a very difficult line between trying to help the family, hold their hand through this process, prosecutors as well, consider their feelings, but at the same time, they've got a job to do. And that job is get a conviction. Get justice, and justice, if justice happens to be a conviction, then get a conviction. Hard stop. And I've had many situations where I was a prosecutor and maybe the victim's family was unhappy about the lack of transparency between us and them. And maybe they were unhappy even about the strategic decisions we were making. And I felt bad, and I tried to help explain that to them. But end of the day, I don't represent them. I represent the people of the state of, in my case, California. And the prosecutor there represented the people of the state of Idaho, not the victims. And that includes a lot of the evidence. The evidence before this goes to trial, nobody sees it. Not nobody know how. They've channed it over what they need to the defense, and that's it. They're not going to share it with the public. They're not going to share it with the media, and they're not going to share it with the family. And that is frustrating to them a lot of times. Now, afterwards, I know there's been a lot of public records requests and FOIA requests and everything else to try to get some of these documents, and why they didn't provide some of that to the families ahead of time. That's not so much a legal question as a question for that department as to why they decided not to do that. It is unfortunate. I know the families, at least some of the families, are not all that happy with the way things, how they've been treated and the way that things ended up. But I fully allow them to feel that way. They in my book, they're allowed to feel any way they want, because the nightmare they've had to live through is unimaginable. But thank you, Little Miss Red Velvet from Manchester, England, for asking the question. All right, let's keep it rolling here.
Hey, Josh, this is therapist in West Texas. When courts use the phrase knew or should have known, is should have known based on what a reasonable person would conclude from available evidence, or is it ever based on what's considered common knowledge in society? Thank you. Bye.
That's a great question. Thank you. TYK from West Texas. Yeah, really good question. What does that mean, knew or should have known, and whose standard is that? Unless specified, unless it specifically says that the defendant, that it must be proven by the prosecution that the defendant knew or should have known, which would take into consideration perhaps the particularities of that defendant's lived experience, we're almost always talking about what's called a reasonable person standard, meaning an objective bystander. What would a person in the position of the defendant, but not being particular to that defendant's experience or knowledge, know or should have known? Usually we're talking about, I'm trying to think of a good situation, like in a self-defense case, would the defendant know or should have known that the threats being made were not true threats or not serious threats? And then the jurors are asked to place themselves in the position of the defendant, but not assume that defendant's level of education, but just only what would a reasonable person in that person's position with the surrounding circumstances know or should have known. Hope that makes sense. Therapists, always love your questions. Thank you so much for asking and being a part of our community here. Not a House defendant that says, I would like to know if you have ever brought your toothbrush to court because you were afraid of being held in contempt. No, I have not. I'm not that badass. Listen, I've gotten into it with judges, but I think how far I can push it and how far I can't. And I come up just short of that line. Julie, thank you so much for supporting the mods with coffee. Appreciate that. Sophia Chaudry says, hi, Josh. I see that you struggle with my last name. Thank you. Chaudry. Am I saying that right? I'm getting halfway nods from Kaylin and Tiffany. They are not helping me out at all. Chaudry. I'm going to say that's right. And I will pronounce that correctly from now on, if that is even correct. But thank you so much for that super chat. All right. Yeah, you guys having a good time? Showed dry. So not showed dry. Now we all don't know. Isn't that wonderful? I'm crowdsourcing the pronunciation and we all don't know. We've talked about Luigi Mangione. We talked about Aaron Spencer. We've talked about Lindsay Clancy. We talked about Nancy Guthrie. We've been all over the world. LOL. No. Chaudry. Chowdhury. All right. Well, we'll keep trying. I'm gonna get this. All right. I should know or should have known how to pronounce that name. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Where are we?
Hi, Josh, Tiff, Mods, and all my Courtroom Confidential family. This is Debbie Harrow from Phoenix City, Alabama. As I record this, I'm still watching live on the Nancy Guthrie case. I've been following this since last Saturday. So hopefully by today, when we all hear this message, they'll have somebody in custody. But I just wanted to say, Josh, you are doing such a fantastic job. I see you on Fox early in the morning. I work from home, so I'm able to watch this all day long as I work. And you were doing such a fantastic job. I know it's tiring, and I hope you can get home soon to your lovely and beautiful Tiffany. My question to get off of this subject is they just arrested, I think, the stepson on the Anna Kepner case. What do you think now is going to happen to him? Do you think they'll try him as a juvenile or as an adult? And could you give your thoughts on why it took so long for them even to make the arrest? But once again, thank you so much. I hope you're home by now. And if not, watch out for those huge pigs I see on the TV. They're the size of a horse. Thanks, Josh. Have a great
Debbie from Phoenix City, Alabama. Thank you so much for calling in. Anna, well, first of all, I am sure that you are referring to the javelinas, as I've been told. I had butchered the pronunciation earlier. Here they are, these little cute piggies. We saw them earlier. I think they're small, though. I don't know if they're that big. They look like they would make a cute pet, don't they? I hope my daughters don't see this. They're going to be asking for javelinas now if they ever get a load of these things. I understand that they're also called peccaries. So just, next time you have that pub trivia night. Anyhow, getting back to your question, Debbie, about Anna Kepner. You remember we talked about this case quite a bit. Really sad and horrific case. She is 18 years old. She's out on a trip with her family and kind of step family, along with her step brother, who's unnamed, 16 years old. They're on a Carnival cruise line, and the next morning she is found under her bed, wrapped in a blanket with a pile of life jackets on top of her. And the medical examiner determines that it is what they're calling mechanical asphyxiation, meaning she was strangled to death, which we've talked about on this channel before, is not a quick death. It can take minutes. And to further kind of pile on that, it's not just minutes. It's minutes beyond when they even lose consciousness. A person will lose consciousness way before they're actually dead. So you have to strangle that person to the point of unconsciousness and then continue to strangle that person to the point of death. And that's what it looks like happened here with her stepbrother. He has now been charged with first-degree murder. He's been arraigned in a federal court in Miami. The feds are taking jurisdiction because it took place on the high seas. And your question is, will they try him as an adult? And I believe that is what, in fact, they are doing here. I got to tell you, I think that's probably what they should do here. Usually you'll see in these cases of real violence, that if it falls within the statutes where they can try a juvenile as an adult, when it involves these real kind of violence, they will do that. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to throw the book at him. But this is a bad one. This is a real bad one. We will we'll continue to follow this one. I know that they're probably going to make some sort of mental health defense in this case. Tell you what, though, the circumstances of it are really starting to sound disturbing, though. But why did they take so long to make this decision and make an arrest? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that delay was about. The only thing I can figure is it was internal discussions, and they figured they had the time because he's not going anywhere, and they probably had a very close eye on him. But that's the only thing I can figure. The feds move fairly slowly, the U.S. attorney, I mean, on these types of things because they have that luxury most times. We'll keep you guys updated. But thank you so much, Debbie from Phoenix City, for asking me the question. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Where are we going? Where are we going?
From Chicago. And so my question obviously is true crime related, but it's not about a specific case, even though I guess you could say it might be about Nancy, but oh, where's Nancy? Anyway, Nancy, come home. Josh, you are a superstar. I have my family sending me videos of you on Fox News. So what an amazing job you have done. I can't even say enough, and how proud and how amazed that you just, it's effortless, like you're doing what you were meant to do. And hopefully you're getting enough food and sleep. And Tiff is amazing. Thank you so much for everything. So my question is, anything behind the scenes? Like, how was it? I mean, is there anything that we really didn't get to see that you said on TV or on screen, anything off screen? Did you finally get Paul some merch? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to tell us? I'm excited to know what you want to say about your week. So thank you. Have a great day. You guys are the best. Love you. Bye.
Oh, Sonia from Chicago. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. I appreciate you saying that. And I will say, I am very happy to be doing it. I feel very blessed to be in the position I am in, where I'm able to travel and cover something like this, and Fox has asked me to even do it, and that I can also then use that to share all of this with you folks. So and all the support that we've been receiving from all of you is incredible. So thank you. What's the inside scoop? Well, I'm going to tell you as much as I feel like I can. Some stuff. So, you know, there's a crew, there's an entire team of people from Fox out there, and every other network. And a lot of those people you never make it in front of the camera. And a lot of them are investigative reporters who are just out there trying to get information. One of the people that I work closely with is Mike Ruiz. I've talked about him a few times now. He's a fantastic guy, incredibly hardworking. Definitely has his nose to the ground, and lots of sources giving him information. And sometimes what he'll say to me is, here's what I'm telling you, but you can't tell anybody, because he hasn't confirmed it, doesn't want that getting out there. A lot of that has to do with what I can say in front of camera. We certainly don't want me going up there and saying, I heard this, and then it turns out to be wrong. But some things I feel comfortable telling you, because I feel like they have been close enough to confirmed as possible. One of the things that we are consistently hearing, and I think they even reported on this morning, is the family is not a suspect. They have been, quote unquote, cleared. And the investigators, feds, local, are not looking into them any longer. For sure, they were investigated initially. They always are. If you're going just by statistics, you start with a very small circle, right? It's like, this person was abducted. We're going to look at the family and everybody who knew them. And then you start to widen that circle as you clear people. So, of course, the family came under great scrutiny. The family came under great scrutiny, too, because they were the last persons to have been known to be with her before she disappeared. So, of course. But I will tell you, we're now 2 weeks into this thing. They have gone through everything in their homes, their digital devices, everything else. And there is not believed, and certainly not an ongoing suspicion of the family. Now, the police and the Sheriff Nanos is going to say everyone's a suspect, and that's kind of a lazy answer, but it is true. You know, people can be cleared and then they're a suspect again because you get new information. So you never want to say, we're not looking at this person because you're keeping all things open, but it certainly isn't helping them for their kind of lives. You know, I'm sure they would like a more definitive answer from the sheriff so that they don't feel under scrutiny and public scrutiny. Along those lines, another thing that we're being told is that the sheriff and FBI are not entirely getting along. They're cooperating, but there is tension there. There is a lot of kind of ego and elbows being thrown. And the Nanos recently, he went on this weird kind of press tour where he was taking individual interviews. He didn't do a press conference, but he allowed for selected interviews where he sat down with people. And I think he's trying to repair his image, quite frankly. I think he knows he's looking not very good in this whole thing. And he said in one of those interviews, he was asked that specific question about, you know, allegations that he was basically icing out the feds. And he said, no, that didn't happen at all. Not true. And then I'm being told by, you know, sources, no, he was. He was not cooperating. He was trying to kind of ice them out. The other thing that we have heard, now I just read you something from Brian Enton about those gloves. So this might not be all that true. Well, I think it's still true. What we're being told is that there is not the highest hopes for these gloves, that they are kind of remote away. You know, if the gloves were found within her driveway or 20 yards of the home, I think we'd be having a different conversation. But these were found miles away from the home. And so it's unclear if there's any connection whatsoever. This was reported on very heavily because this was soon after we saw that the suspect is wearing black gloves. But it looks like, you know, according to Enton, they're hoping that they might be suspect gloves. And if that's true, this is huge. If they believe those are suspect gloves, this is huge. And here's how it could be huge. Let's say they get a suspect for some other reason. Geofencing, a tip, whatever it is that leads them to someone. And then they match that person to the DNA. Okay, well, let's look at it this way. Let's say they get a DNA profile on that glove. They swab their new suspect and there's no match. That's not enough to rule that suspect out. But if you get a match on this glove to a person that's already a suspect, that is big, because now you can place that person in black gloves, right? That person can never say, I've never seen a black glove in my entire life. We've got your DNA on a black glove. That's how it could be used. So I'm hoping, I'm very optimistic about them solving this case, them finding somebody. I think there's just way too many resources being thrown at this for them to come up with nothing. So thank you so much, Sonia, for the kind words and for asking the question. All right. Let's keep it rolling here.
Hi, Josh. It's Carolyn from Whitefish, Montana. My question is in regards to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. If it's proven that Sheriff Chris Nanos purposely withheld evidence from the FBI, can he be criminally charged? His job should be seeking justice, and it just seems to me he's doing everything but that. I appreciate everything that you do, that Tiffany does, that Kaylin does, and CC Crew. Thank you. Have a great day.
Enton is still tweeting on this glove thing, so I'm seeing our crack team of researchers are sending me that info. If I get anything new, I'll let you guys know. But it's now apparently the FBI is giving a statement on the gloves that's not all that clear cut. So if I find out something while we're sitting here, I'll of course share it with you guys. But kind of right on cue, Carolyn from Whitefish, Montana. Thank you so much for calling in. Can you zoom out there for a second? Kaylin, sorry. I just want to see where it is. Oh, the map is taking forever to load on us. Sorry about that. Anyhow, thank you so much for Carolyn calling in from Whitefish. Yeah, it's way up there. Stay warm. We were just talking about Sheriff Chris Nanos. Listen, I don't think anybody's impressed. What's funny is early on, I actually felt differently. I'm like, wow, this sheriff is really earnest and he's really trying to be helpful and share information. And then you find out some of the information he's sharing is not true or is mistaken, or he's got to walk it back. Or, I mean, there was this whole kerfuffle about who dropped off Nancy at her home. And he is on record saying it was the son-in-law. And then later on, he says, well, we want to say family member. It's like, well, why are you doing that? The AP had reported early that there were signs of forced entry. And then he later on says, I don't know where you guys got that from. We got it from you. Like he had a real problem with kind of oversharing in a like Angenette was saying, in an unclear and unspecific way. And then he gets a lot of heat for that, I think, and backlash. So he just cuts off communication altogether. We haven't had a press conference for over a week and a half. That's also not a great way to handle this whole thing. So it's not been good. But to your question, Caroline, there's no crime here that I see yet being committed by him. But I'll tell you this. If his reticence to involve the FBI led to delays in securing evidence, and those delays perhaps led to the inability to capture this person, or even the inability to return Nancy alive, you can be sure people are going to be taking a very serious look at that, because now you are talking about essentially obstruction because you've got too big of an ego. I hope none of that is true. What I've been told is that this lab in Florida is very good. It's where they send all their stuff. It's not like he was trying to hide it from the FBI, but at the same time, when you've got the FBI, the largest and best criminal investigative agency in the world, at your disposal, why not just hand them this stuff? Yeah, could you send this to Quantico? Good grief, we would love that. We would love Quantico to take a look at this. And instead, he's like, no, this is my case. Anyhow, thank you so much for that. Carolyn from Whitefish, appreciate you asking the question. All right. Keep it moving, Ritter. We've got more to get to here. Bunglebush. I can pronounce that just fine. Thank you for the super chat. Says, is it possible that he put the plant in front of the nest to make it look to Nancy as though it was naturally covered up, not covered by tape? I get it. That's an interesting theory. Here's what I'll tell you I think is going on is I think this person was very prepared to commit a crime. Gloves, backpack, mask, flashlight in the mouth. I just got surprised by this camera. And then does this weird, bizarre moment of improvisation to try to cover it up, which just made no sense to anybody. I also have a theory I'll share with you guys. You know, there's this 45-minute odd delay between when the camera is disconnected and between when Nancy's pacemaker no longer is in contact with her phone. And everybody has pointed to this. That's a long period of time, 45 minutes. Why would he show up? Does that show that he knows her? Was he having a discussion with her? 45 minutes doesn't make sense. And I agree. My thinking is, this is just a theory I had when I finally got some sleep and my brain was working again, is that if he was caught off guard by this camera, it might be that he dismantled it and then sat tight. He might have dismantled it and then just kind of hid out for a moment to see if there was a police response. because he doesn't know if that's connected to some sort of, alert that goes out to the police, or that if it did signal her inside and she's calling the police or whatever it was. So my view was it wasn't 45 minutes he actually spent inside the home. It was 30 minutes he spent outside hiding out, waiting to see if there was any police response. And then when he felt comfortable, then went inside the home and abducted her. That just seemed to kind of make sense to me. But again, the one thing this case doesn't have a lack of is theories. So there's another theory. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Renee M., thank you so much for supporting the mods with coffees. Where am I going? Okay, here we go.
Hey, Josh and crew. It is sarcasm. I have a list of questions, but today I only have one because I'm on vacation in Bowling Green, Kentucky with my daughter and my grandson. So you can put that on the map, but we all know that I am proudly from Fort Bragg. So the au pair was sentenced today to 10 years plus 2 years of probation. Nothing was mentioned about deportation. So it is my understanding that when someone is not a legal citizen, they serve their time and then they are deported. So will she have to complete her 2 years of probation here in the US before she's deported? Does the judge mandate that, or does another agency do that? Can we petition that? Even though sadly she's gonna make money after that. Anyway, if you could help me understand that, it would be really great. I appreciate you. I hope everybody has a great day and happy Sunday fun day.
Sarcasm from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Always great to hear from you. Great question. Talking about Brendan Banfield and Juliana Magalhaes. She was sentenced to 10 years prison plus 2 years probation. This is going to drive you all nuts, but because of the time that she has already served, her attorney has said that she's only going to do a remaining 4 years and 2 months. What happens after that, though? What is that 2-year probation? Well, the quick answer is that the judge sentencing her has no control over the deportation. The deportation is handled by the Department of Homeland Security. They will be alerted to the fact that she is no longer enjoys a legal immigrant status and has been convicted of a felony, and they will be the ones handling the deportation. So the judge wouldn't be involved in the timeline of all of that. The judge is just sentencing her straight as if she's a citizen or not. And that is 10 years plus 2 years probation. So would she serve the probation because it's part of her sentence first? No. Probation, or parole, to be more specific, is kind of this supervisory period that you go through after your release to kind of make sure that you behave yourself for a period of time. And that is if you violate any, it allows the court to maintain jurisdiction over you, but doesn't mean that you have to remain in a place. Or it can mean that. I shouldn't say that. Sometimes it can mean checking in with a parole officer or probation officer. But in her case, as soon as she's released from prison, they're not going to allow her to re-enter society. They're gonna put her on a plane and bring her back down to Colombia, right? No. Where was it? Why am I blanking on that right now? Everybody thinks I'm a lip reader. I am not a lip reader. Brazil. Pardon me. She will go back down to Brazil. So hope that answers that. Thank you, Sarcasm. Great question, though. But I'm blown away by the amount of time she's actually going to do and what she got sentenced to here. Just baffling to me. Shy Gal, thank you so much for the Courtroom Confidential memberships. Appreciate you. Oh, and there you are again. Thank you for the memberships. Very kind of you. Heather Cooper Smith, thank you for the super sticker. Always appreciate your support. All right. Let's keep it rolling.
Hi, Josh, Tiff, mods, and fellow CC crew. This is Wendy Joan, 5'5", from Browns Valley, which is in Northern California, between Marysville and Grass Valley, off of Highway 20. I was wondering about when a judge chooses what to sentence someone that has a plea deal. My reference is the Juliana Magalhaes sentence from Friday morning, and that's the Brandon Banfield case. What constraints? I mean, I know legally that her sentence or her charge was reduced to manslaughter with a quote unquote recommendation of anything between time served to 10 years. And then it's at the judge's discretion. Does this damage? I don't even like that word, but I know the judge has that range of choice in sentencing and can use their own judgment, so to say, in sentencing. I don't want to give any spoilers. So if a judge does not go with the least amount, which would have been time.
Oh, sorry, Wendy. I think I got your question, Wendy, though. And it's a great question. Before I get to Wendy's question, though, I wanted to send a message to Nell. Nell is a subscriber who's called in a couple of times. Nell, I would love for you to email me at info@viafortunamedia.com because I just have a question of clarification before I can answer your question. And I didn't want to get into it without being able to talk to you about it. So thank you, Nell. I know that you've been trying to get your question answered, and I'm not ignoring you. Email me at info@viafortunamedia.com. And I'll just leave that out there. It's all mysterious and cryptic to all of you. But to Wendy's wonderful question from Browns Valley, California. How does the judge handle a situation where the judge feels as though the sentence agreement, the plea agreement, has kind of tied their hands? Well, the first thing the judge can do is reject it. And sometimes this happens. It happens a lot more often in federal court than it does in state court, where they'll come in front of the judge and you go, Your Honor, this is the agreement that we have, and we would like this person to plead guilty, and this is what they'll be sentenced to. And the judge goes, I'm not doing that. Doesn't sound good to me. That doesn't sound like and it will force them to go to trial even. There's a famous case here. Sheriff Lee Baca in Los Angeles County was actually put up on federal, I think it was like RICO charges and all sorts of corruption and everything else. And he had a plea deal worked out with the federal prosecutors, and the judge rejected it, and he went to trial. Actually got less than what they were asking for, which was interesting. But, you know, judges can do this. They are the ultimate kind of arbitrators over whether or not they feel justice is being done in their court. Now, this is a different situation, though, because she had essentially an agreement that included her performance, which was to testify. So this had to have been approved by the judge ahead of time. And it's not entirely a plea agreement in that she's going to get a specified amount of time, but it gave a ceiling to the judge on how much time she could get, which was 10 years. And that was dictated by the exposure on the crime itself. So the judge maxed her out, but the judge was left with nothing else but to max her out on what she was charged with. In other words, the judge couldn't turn around and go, well, I don't think that's right. I'm sentencing you on murder, even though you've only been charged with manslaughter by the government. They're not allowed to do that. That is a separation of powers issue. So that's why you had what you had here. But there are instances where judges can get involved. They can reject deals, but the judge here would have had to have rejected the deal before she testified, because then it's a contract. Then you're entering into, like I said, after acceptance and consideration, and she's already given performance of that contract. And the judge would not only be, you know, it would be a real problem if the judge had rejected it. But she got 10 years plus 2 years probation, and she's only going to do an additional 4 years and 2 months for murdering 2 people. That's what I have to say about that. All right. Thank you, Afton, so much for the memberships. Very kind of you. Welcome aboard, all those new folks who received memberships. Maria Lebrecht. Thank you so much for. Oh, Chowdhury. Now I got problems pronouncing Maria's last name. We'll go into a whole thing on this. Chowdhury. I can say Chowdhury. Sounds good to me. What's the big deal? Why is it so hard? Sunny AZ has been a member for 3 months, everybody. Says, I love Sunday Funday. Well, we love having you here. Thank you so much. We're at that point, guys. It's the last 3 questions. But we've had a good day. This is a really good Sunday Funday. I'm very, very much enjoying all the questions that you guys did. Chowdhury, you got it. Sophia Chowdhury, thank you so much. Sophia Chowdhury, thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, last 3 questions. Who's bringing us home here? Let's see.
Hey, Josh. Austin from Indianapolis, Indiana here. Just curious on the Nancy Guthrie case. Let's assume they do find her alive and they catch the guy. Obviously, he gets the charges of kidnapping and burglary, and the state of Arizona will throw the book at him. But I'm just curious, what other charges could he be looking at besides the obvious? Looking forward to your answer on Sunday Funday. Thank you.
Austin, one of my dudes in the house, calling from Indianapolis, Indiana. Thank you so much, my friend. Good to hear from you. Yeah, this is a good question for us to consider. What if she is found alive? Could this person be looking at? And it's incredibly serious stuff. Put it to you this way. The quickest answer to that is he's looking to spend the rest of his life in prison. It's just what for? Well, first of all, you've got kidnapping, but I'll add to that kidnapping with injury, which makes it far worse. Likely looking at life just on that alone. As you pointed out, residential burglary. Burglary, by the way, sometimes gets confused because people think it involves theft. It does not. It involves the breaking of entering to commit any felony. So even if that felony was a kidnapping or assault or whatever it was, that's still burglary. Burglary with a person present is another allegation. I'm going off of what I'm familiar with in California. I have not reviewed all of Arizona, but I'll give you just kind of an idea. I imagine they have very similar crimes. Person present, meaning somebody in the home, again, an aggravating factor. You're looking at life on that. And then you can get to things like false imprisonment for just holding her for as long as they have. Any assaults that may have taken place along the way. Torture, perhaps you could argue, if she's being held in some sort of condition where she's not getting proper medical assistance or food. And I mean, you could get really nitty gritty and down. You could charge them with vandalism for destroying the camera, theft for destroying the camera. I mean, there's just a number of things, and it really depends on what they're able to find out about all of this. But God willing, she's found alive. This person is never going to see the outside of a prison again, in my view. Great question, though, Austin. All of us are praying for this. I look at this picture. It is obvious what a loving woman she was and how loved she was by her family, and it's just breaking my heart. Gossip and rumors. So good to see you. Thank you so much for that, for the Courtroom Confidential memberships. That's very kind of you. Everybody go, please now subscribe over at Gossip Rumor. You're not going to regret it. All right. Super Blue just became a member. Fantastic. Do like Super Blue and become a member, everybody. Derek Sherman, thank you for the super chat, says, Josh, do you happen to know why Sheriff Nanos grounded the helicopter pilot that was searching early in the investigation for Nancy? Also reported the sheriff disciplined the pilot as well. I have not heard about this. I have not. I will tell you this. I was kind of giving you guys some inside scoop. The other thing I'll add, and I don't think this is, I'm speaking out of turn here. Since I landed in Tucson, literally the person who drove me from the airport to the sheriff's department where we started filming, I didn't even get a chance to go to my hotel room first. That driver, I asked him about this situation, what he thought, and nearly every person I've run in contact with, this sheriff is not liked. The people there don't like him. They're not happy with him. They're certainly not happy with how he's handling this whole thing. And a lot of the people in his department are not happy with him. They say that he's very political. They say that he's very vindictive. Again, I'm telling you what I heard, so take it for what it's worth. I have obviously not interacted with the person, and I only know as much about him as you guys are seeing on TV. But not sounding like he's got a lot of fans out there. And if he grounded this helicopter pilot, I have no idea. I have no idea why that would be, other than it sounds like, from the way he's been described to me, kind of the way he would behave if he felt that somehow something was wrong. Joe Schmo says, from a local reporter, pilot was disciplined for non-related HR type interaction with a fellow sheriff's office employee. Yeah, I mean, this is the problem. You're getting all this kind of inside politics that's carrying over into affecting the efficacy of the investigation. That's horrible stuff. If you want to discipline someone, do it. If you feel like that needs to be done, but don't let that make the investigation and perhaps rescue mission suffer. Anyhow, thank you, Joe Schmo, for that update. Thank you, Austin, for asking the question. All right. Who do we got next here? Down to the wire. Not my fault, Kaylin. I'm pressing the buttons.
Happy Sunday Fun Day, Josh. Courtroom Confidential Grizzlies, Moz, Tiff, everybody in chat. This is Court Liquor calling from Spokane, Washington. And my question has to do with reward money. And I'm curious if somebody who submits a tip and, all due process is done, the person is found or people are convicted, they get the reward money. Is that taxable? Is that something that somebody would actually think about when making this tip? And I'm curious as to if maybe that's why they're reaching out to TMZ and trying to avoid this for the exact amount. It's so puzzling. So I'm just curious. Or another stream said maybe they are an illegal in the United States, and that might be why. I just am so curious to hear your thoughts on all of this. And I thank you for everything you do. Happy Sunday Fun Day, everyone. And see you in chat.
Court Lurker from Spokane, Washington, one of our confidential Grizzlies. I love that that's a thing. Confidential Grizzlies. How cute. Listen, to be associated with Gisela and the Grizzly crew at all, I will gladly take. Big time fans and big time supporters, and she's been fantastic to us. So love all the Grizzlies who are here with us today. First of all, to your question about is the reward money taxable? I will give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count. The answer is, do you think the federal government will not somehow be involved in that transaction? The answer is yes. It will be involved as if, you won the lottery, as if any kind of gift of money. It's income. You got income. You got $100,000. We're going to get our piece of that. That is part of your income, which is unfortunate. Now, Court Lurker wants to know, is the person with the tip that's reaching out to TMZ, allegedly the tipster, doing that, making that calculation in their head? And this is all the reason why they're dealing with TMZ and they want Bitcoin, is to avoid the taxes. Could be. I'll tell you my take on it is I think the person contacting DMZ is totally bogus. I think that this case is, we're seeing kind of the exploitation of people's pain like we've never seen before. You know, if you really want Bitcoin because you're worried about the police, or you're worried about taxes, you can contact this family and not go through TMZ. There are ways of doing that. I mean, they've contacted other smaller stations and not gone through TMZ. But you know, if you contact through TMZ, Harvey here has a camera on the ready, and he's going to get up there and talk about it. And I just think the whole thing is nonsense. And I think it's a complete distraction, and it's really sad. And I hope they find the person and prosecute the person. And they've already done that with one person ahead of this. But it's a distraction, and it's a waste of resources, and it's getting people worked up. And it's also getting people worked up in that, what if it's true, right? You got to imagine Savannah and her family have thought around and gone, listen, I got, you know, they wanted one Bitcoin, I think it was going for $65,000. I got $65,000. Like, should we just pay this and see if it's true? And it's sad. It's really sad that God forbid any one of us had to experience what she's experiencing. Your mom goes missing, and then you find out that it was criminal. And it wasn't just that she wandered off. And then add to that the exponential pain of it being all over the world and a bunch of people trying to exploit that sad situation. God, I can't imagine how she's able to put one foot in front of the other, really. When she gave that last statement where she was asking for help, her composure is inspiring for what she's going through. All right, guys, this is it. The last big question of the day. You're all so fantastic. Can't thank you enough for everything. Wait a minute. I can't thank you enough. Here's one more thank you to Closing Deals in Heels. Love that name. Thank you for the super chat. Says, with all the seemingly fruitless detainments with no arrests, isn't this just adding ammunition to a future defense? Great question. A lot of people have brought that up. First, let me say, these detentions, I wouldn't entirely declare them fruitless at this point. They haven't led to charges, but that doesn't mean those people aren't continually under surveillance. And what they're likely doing is, especially with this last one, they've seized that person's phone. They had a warrant for that. Seized that person's car, had to get a warrant for that. Took a buccal swab, DNA swab of that person, had to get a warrant for that. Something they have is supporting all these warrants. And all of those things are going to take some time to gather the evidence, to download the phone, crack the phone, download it, download whatever information's on the vehicle, get the DNA results on the buccal swab. Could be they're just waiting for all of that. And then charges are coming. But in that meantime, you can't just hold somebody and say, well, we're going to let you go after we get these results. So that is maybe me putting about as optimistic a twist on it as possible. Sorry, I don't know where the question went, but yes, to a defense attorney down the road, let's say this person is the person. Yeah, they're going to talk about, like, well, you know, you thought it was this person. You went out and made an arrest. Didn't you, officer so-and-so? You don't know what you were doing. You were just grasping at straws, and my client just happened to get caught up in the mess. Sure. We'll see what they get. We'll see what they get and what evidence actually links that person. But yeah, I agree with you. All right. Last question of the day, everybody. Here we go.
Hi, Josh and company. Court Dog Daniel from Connecticut. Following the Nancy Guthrie case, I must admit, early on, I thought I had a few working theories, but as more information has come out, this looks far more ambiguous than it first appeared. But also, I believe the simple answer is usually the correct one. You've been on the ground covering the case nonstop, and to me, this case feels like John Benet Ramsey or even the Lindbergh baby kidnapping, because the evidence is fragmented and each new detail appears capable of pointing in more than one direction, which makes it difficult to form a clear narrative. From your vantage point on the ground out there, do you have a take on where this investigation is headed? And does this remind you of any other cases in history as it further develops? 88% juiced.
CDD from New Britain, Connecticut. Thank you so much. Good to hear from you, my friend. I think you've heard me say this a couple of times. I am still bullish on them solving this case. I know that we're looking at some of the stuff that has taken place, and it's easy to view that as missteps. But you got to keep in mind, this is how criminal investigations go a lot of times. They get leads, they follow up on the leads, they secure warrants, they get new evidence. Maybe that leads to something. Maybe it leads to a dead end. Maybe it leads them on towards another avenue, which does lead them to an ultimate arrest and charges here. And that happens in investigations quite often, but you don't hear about it because we're not following it so closely and it's not under a microscope. But we are with this one. And so every time we get something and it doesn't lead to anything, we think they don't know what they're doing. And they're a bunch of Keystone cops and they're fumbling around and grasping at shadows in the dark. I'm not there yet. I think the biggest problems in this investigation have been the messaging and public outreach and what they're telling all of us, because we are starting to go, what are you guys doing? Because we're not getting any real answers. It's all this, we'll let you know when we let you know type of stuff, which is not the way to be handling this, in my humble opinion. But I am optimistic because, one, to your point, we live in a day and age where there is so much surveillance. And I don't mean that in a kind of, creepy way. Like there's constantly cameras surrounding everything we do. And we have so much advancements in forensics and DNA that I just can't imagine this person getting away with this. I mean, they're still at the point where they haven't even employed or they're starting to and haven't received the results on the IgG technology that's going to be used in this case, for sure. Go back to Kohberger. You remember in Kohberger, we thought, how we were asking these same questions. How can this be going on this long? And they haven't saved this. And in that case, it's arguable they had less to work on than in this case. They only had a kind of fuzzy photo of a car off in the distance that they were having trouble even matching to a make and model and year. Now, they had the DNA on the knife sheath, which was fantastic, but that came back to nothing. So in this case, the idea that they have that videotape that is so clear, and the person's face is covered, but you can get so much information. They've been able to nail it down to 2 inches, 5'9" or 5'10", a general weight description. I mean, this is just great stuff. And all the online sleuthing, this thing about whether or not he's got a tattoo on his wrist, I think is incredible stuff. You couple that with the geofencing and the digital and the cell phone towers and the potential DNA and everything else. I think they're going to have an arrest here. I think they're going to have somebody soon. I am frustrated. It is taking longer than we had all hoped. We all are so hopeful that Nancy's alive and they can bring her back home safely. But I'm hopeful, and maybe that's just self-preservation telling me to be hopeful. Gisela, Grizzly True Trying, been lurking while working. Hope you are well. Excellent job reporting on the case in Arizona. Well, thank you very much for that. Appreciate you, Gisela, and appreciate all the Grizzlies in the chat, and appreciate everybody sticking with us, and all the support that we've had while we've been covering this case. And I appreciate you all being here for Sunday Fun Day. So thank you all so much. Let me give you some quick announcements and get you all out of here, okay? One, let me tell you about a website. It's called thecourtroomconfidential.com. And what you will find there are what I refer to as the big 3 M's. First of all, If you've been watching today and you said to yourself, how do I leave a message? I've got a question. Ritter never answered my question. You go to thecourtroomconfidential.com and you click on leave us a message, and then I will answer your question at the next Sunday Fun Day. Also, a lot of gifted memberships today. If you got one of those, congratulations, welcome aboard. If you didn't and you want to join up yourself, go to thecourtroomconfidential.com and click on become a member, and you can find out about all the benefits that we have in our membership program. And I will tell you this, just a short kind of advertisement. Oh, look it. See, do like Crime Curious did, or Crime Curious gifted a membership. So I hope somebody enjoys that. Our membership program is really not there just to be there. We really try to put a lot of benefits into it and a lot of work into making it something that you feel like you're glad that you're part of a membership. Behind the scenes stuff, a lot more Tiffany involvement, a lot of fun things, and they're always planning new things between Tiffany and Kaylin to make it something worth your while. So please check it out. Would love to have you. IDK the Future says, awesome to see the channel grow so rapidly. Last weekend, I knew you'd hit 70,000 by today, but you far surpassed that. Congrats to Josh, Tiff, Kaylin, and the mods for the hard work and creating awesome content. Thank you, Future, for that. Yes, we have passed 75,000. We're blown away. Thank you guys all so much for all the support. If you're sitting there right now and you've enjoyed this today and you're not subscribing, hit that subscribe button. Would love to have you. Would love to have you along for the journey. And then finally, the last thing that you will find on our website, thecourtroomconfidential.com, is our shop. You click on the shop button and you get all the merch, including this t-shirt that I'm wearing today. I love this color. What is the actual name of this color? I know we've got guesses, but I don't know what the actual red herring. See, that's clever. Therapist, you know, this is where she shines. The Queen Bee says, my first Sunday Fun Day, and I really enjoyed it. Well, Queen Bee or anybody else, if you want one of these shirts in all the colors that we have available, we've got those that you see right there, plus many, many more. Please check us out in the shop. But it's not just shirts. Brick. See, they don't come up with great names. We've got sweaters, and we've got sweatshirts, and we've got t-shirts, and we've got mugs, and we've got tumblers, and we've got pajama pants, and we've got notebooks and quarter zips. When am I getting this quarter zip, by the way? Didn't I want one of the black ones? Did you order me one? No, she didn't order me one. Okay. Well, do I want navy blue or I want black? Can I have a black one, please? Thank you so much. We've got a bunch of stuff, and it's all really good quality stuff. I'm very proud. We would put it out there if we didn't believe in it. I'm very proud to promote it. So please check it out. We would love for you to have some merch to be a part of the crew. What did you miss? Well, we've been doing daily coverage of the Nancy Guthrie case, even yesterday and all of last week. And those episodes are out now. Please check them out. Still very good information in that. And we've been trying to give you some inside scoop where we could along the way, and including having Paul Morrow from Fox News on yesterday. And that guy's just brilliant, dude. Brilliant, dude. I think you'll really enjoy that conversation if you haven't seen it. Probably gauze, says Therapist, you know. We should just save a segment for Therapists, you know, to give us the names so that we don't miss out on them. Coral Crime Files says GQ Trinity. Thank you for that. That's a good one too. Then we also have been doing this daily coverage on Fox Nation. We have a show on Fox Nation, myself, along with Paul Morrow and Donna Rotuno, called The Weekly Rap Sheet. But while this case has been going on, we felt it was important to do something daily. So it's branded under the name of Missing Nancy Guthrie. It's up on Fox Nation now, and we've been doing daily episodes of that as well. So please check that out. Lots of great information on that as well. Then stay tuned next week. I am back at it again. I fly out tonight, if you can believe it, back to Tucson. Going to be doing daily stuff while I'm there in Tucson. Also on Fox News. Please check it out. I'll give you guys, you know, like we've been doing all week. We'll give you the inside scoop as much as I possibly can. Thank you, Nate J3Z, for the gifted membership. Appreciate you, my friend. Then on Monday, we're going to try to have a guest, and time to be determined and guest to be determined. And the only reason I'm not more specific is I don't know what my schedule is going to be like. So we're kind of been doing some of these last minute. So bear with us. We're doing our best. And then on Wednesday, are we still doing this on Wednesday? Wednesday, I'm probably going to be in the air. And so we didn't want you to miss out on something. So we've been working on something behind the scenes for a while now, and we're very proud of it. And are we ready? We're ready to release it on Wednesday? Yes. Okay. We are going to be releasing the latest in our court case notes series, and this one is focusing on Kouri Richins. Her trial is about to start, and we wanted to give you a catch up on that. We will be streaming that trial as much as we can on Courtroom Confidential live trials. But check us out this Wednesday, premiering, live premiere, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, the Kouri Richins case notes. So we would love to have you check that out. And then finally, Derek Sherman, thank you so much, says, Josh, take Tiff out for some coffee. God bless, my friend. All right, Tiff. You want some coffee? I'm going to give you her order. What does she usually get? Whatever it is, it takes forever to order it because it's got, you like a sugar-free vanilla latte with less sweet, iced with oat milk. She's freaking out because I'm right. That'll probably cost the entire $20 from Derek. So thank you so much for that, Derek. Finally, in May 29th through 31st in Las Vegas, we will be at CrimeCon, and we would love to see you all there. You still have time to buy tickets, obviously. We're trying to get together as big a crew of folks as we can. We're planning all sorts of meetups and fun stuff. Would love to see you there. And we know that it's not cheap to get yourself out to Vegas and get a room and everything else. So if we can help out a little bit, we're going to, and that's because CrimeCon gave us a discount code. If you enter the word courtroom, all in caps, all one word, at checkout, you'll get 10% off. So please do that if you haven't already. All right, guys, you're all the best. Big shout out and thank you to Angenette Levy for the help with the phone a friend today. This is her channel. Go check it out. Say hi. Leave her some juice boxes if you can. Big shout out and thank you to Afton, Sonia, Kathy, and therapists you know for being the best mods in the entire business. Detective Bunny says Joshua and Bryan Enton have the best hair on YouTube. I'll take that. I like Brian's hair. I'll take that for sure. You guys are fantastic. Kaylin, thank you so much for all that you do. The behind the scenes last minute stuff is incredible. And Tiffany, I will, because you are the best thing that happened with me, I will get you that latte later today. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.